The asset limit in SSI remains unchanged in 2021. The Social Security Administration refers to assets as resources. That's money or items you own that you can turn into cash, like property, stocks, bonds, and bank accounts. Now, there is an asset limit to participate in the SSI program, and the Social Security Administration is going to look at countable assets. There's some assets that you have that will not count towards this threshold, but the threshold for 2021 is $2,000 in assets for an individual or $3,000 in assets for a couple. Now, there are things that count as assets or resources for Social Security. Cash, bank accounts, stocks, bonds, land, life insurance, some personal property, some vehicles, and some deemed resources. So a portion of some of the assets that are held by somebody else, like a spouse or a parent where relevant. But countable resources do not include the following items, and that could be the home and the land it is on, one vehicle regardless of value, household goods and personal effects. So think of things like jewelry or wedding rings that are important to you, life insurance with a face value of $1,500 or less, burial spaces, burial funds, property used in trade or business, a large portion of funds that might be put aside in an ABLE account, and other items. The Social Security Administration has a long listing on their website of what is not included in the resource limit to participate in the SSI program. Now, we mentioned ABLE accounts there in things that were not counted as resources. Some people who became disabled before the age of 26 can put some money aside into an ABLE account, and ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. Families can contribute up to $15,000 per year, and the first $100,000 is exempted from that $2,000 resource limit to participate in SSI. Now, not all states run their own ABLE accounts. If your state does not, you can actually participate in an account made available by another state. And we link to more information on the description below to learn more about ABLE accounts and how to set some money aside. Looking ahead, like we said, the SSI asset limits have not been updated in a long time. Actually, not since 1989. These threshold limits, the $2,000 per individual or $3,000 per couple, is the same limit it was all the way back to 1989, meaning it just hasn't kept pace with inflation. There has been legislation introduced in Congress to increase this amount. One bill back in 2019 suggested a $10,000 asset limit for an individual, $20,000 for a couple. There is pressure on the Biden administration to start considering updating the asset thresholds. Some advocates call the existing low asset limit a barrier to economic stability and mobility. And one last reminder, we are talking about asset limits in the SSI program. This has nothing to do with people that participate in SSDI. Now, in the description below, like we said, more information on SSI countable resources and what is not counted. Also, if you want to read up on some of that past legislation that could increase the threshold, the asset resource threshold in the SSI program, we link to some of that draft legislation below.